Hi everyone, it's QuickyBaby and welcome back to World of Tanks. And yesterday we found out that we would be getting the most epic gift in World of Tanks history. And today, the patch is out 2.0 for the Asia server. It'll be coming on the EU and NA server on Wednesday. Today's video is going to be focused on exactly how the gifted tech tree branch works, and also to answer possibly the most frequently asked comment in yesterday's YouTube video, which tech trees I would recommend that you should pick as your free tech tree, both if you're a veteran and also if you are a brand new player. So without further ado, let's click claim reward, and then we're filled with a whole different branch that we can be able to select. Now, as this is my personal account on the Asia server that was created previously, I'm only going to be able to pick one branch. And you know what, on the Asia server, I think I got to go for the IS-7, because then I can also maybe start to go towards the KR-1 one day, right? So boom, baby, IS-7. Claim the reward. I'll get the KV-1S, the IS, the IS-7 as well. It's looking like the vehicles might be elite, but we'll find out about that in a second. And it's as simple as that. Just five vehicles unlocked instantly. Now let's see exactly what they come with. Because I'm a veteran, I'm also going to be getting the 10 million credits, the 15,000 bonds, the 2,500 gold, and 30 days of premium. Now, I also found out that on the Asia server, it's halfway through October that you have to be able to fulfill this. But if I was to create a brand new account, I could unlock another 2 tech trees. Now, I'm not suggesting that you create multiple accounts in World of Tanks to be able to unlock 2 tech trees to try and see if you like the tier 10s, as World of Tanks is best played when you're focusing on an individual account, says the guy who's got like 2 different accounts on the EU server alone. Okay, so it looks like the IS-7 doesn't come with the KR-1 unlocked. Drat, otherwise everybody would be doing that. Field modifications wise, I don't think I should have access to them because the vehicle won't be elited, and unfortunately field modifications aren't available until you unlock the tier 11 tank in the next patch. But it's really as simple as that. I just got a whole new tech tree for free, and I presume there's nothing stopping me. If I wanted to sell the IS-7, I could sell it for 3 million credits, but why would you want to do that if you could choose any free tech tree, right? So now I'm going to go over the tech trees, starting with the German nation, to give you a helping hand very quickly about whether I think the tech trees are good inside the game and which ones I'd recommend for the excellent players, the absolute beginners. Let's get it on. Here we go. Quick tech tree review. So firstly, German artillery. The GWE-100 is this absolute complete mix of the bunch. It's got a good shell trajectory, it's got good alpha damage, it's got an okay rate of fire, and it's got some armor to boot. It's just the generic all-purpose artillery line inside the game. Jagdpanzer E-100, I love this branch. I think it's fabulous, especially with the buff to the Jagdtiger and the Ferdinand. This thing is actually in a pretty darn good place. And the Jagdpanzer E-100 has the highest penetration in the game, although can I still say that in World of Tanks 2.0 at 420? Hits for 1,050, it's got armor, and it's also competitive. Great players will do well in this tank. Awful players will do well in this tank because they'll hit 2 shots in a game, and that's above average impact for an awful player. All in all, you really can't go wrong with the biggest tank destroyer in World of Tanks. Next up, the Gorilla 15 line leading to the Hirschkäfer. Obviously, with this branch having a tier 11, it's a great pick. However, what I will say is that the Gorilla 15 is a tank destroyer that is easy to play terribly, but it's actually quite tricky to play well. It's also, while it's a fun tank and the gun feels amazing, it's not a competitive line. So if you want to be a sniper, go for it. But remember, you're probably still not going to be packing the win ratio that you could be picking if you were to pick a tank destroyer line with more armor. Next up, the line leading towards the Panzer 7. This is a great tank. The Panzer 7 is incredibly underrated and underrepresented inside the game. It's actually one of the best tier 10 heavies for everyone. Great players will be able to make use of its fat armor and its reliable gun, and awful players will be able to make use of its incredible armor. The Maus line leading to the new Taschenratte. This is a very, very good line for somebody who's a little bit crazy. Okay, I mean, it was made by the ultimate crazy person in World War II when we think about it. The Maus line, fabulous. Been in the game since the beginning and now has a tier 11, the Taschenratte, which I think a lot of people are excited for. Whether the Taschenratte is going to be God tier or not, that remains to be seen. I'm not giving you reviews on all of the tier 11s in today's video. What I will say is that this is not a line for somebody who gets frustrated when they get penetrated. It's easy to play the mouse terribly, but it's very, very high skill cap tank, actually, as to what you can achieve with your conviction to push a flank and to be willing to make the play while you have hit points that will influence the game. Next up, the E100. This vehicle, it's a lot easier to play than the mouse, I'd say. All you really have to do is focus on angling your turret and just avoiding getting shot in the lower plate. 2 competitive guns, 128 for your DPM and the 150 for those big boy traits. It was my first tier 10 and I still think it's a good pick. E50M line is fabulous. I really like the E50M line. It's really good for crazy people who want to just go in and ram, like me. And it's also a line which will probably be better for a new player than the Leopard line, because at least you're going to have some armor to be able to fall back on. It's a good sniping medium tank. 2 ways to play. 1, aggressive brawler. 2, sniping with armor. I wouldn't say sniping with armor is the best way to play it, but it is still a valid playstyle. Talk about sniping, look no further than the Leopard line. These tanks have ludicrously good guns for medium vehicles, relatively high alpha damage, great accuracy, great penetration. So if you don't want to spam gold, the Leopard line is very good for you. And now that it's leading on also towards the Leopard 120, there's probably never been a better time to dip into the Leopard line. Controversial opinion, this may be, but the Leopard 1 is actually not a very competitive tank. Look, don't get me wrong, if you're an incredible player, you can do some fabulous stuff with this vehicle. But all in all, if we take a look at everybody who plays the Leopard, because of the complete lack of armor, it's very easy to do a good amount of damage in the battle, but quite often you're doing damage while you're losing the battle, which is why the Leopard has great average damage, but its actual average win ratio is not that great. If you're somebody who really wants to impact your battles and get stuck in, I think you'll do better with many of the other mediums. But if you're somebody who just wants to see those damage numbers and deliver it with a very convenient, comfortable gun, you can't go wrong with a Leopard. Next up, the only tier 10 light tank line, it's the Borkenkäfer, leading on from the Rheinmetall Panzerwagen. This line, it's good. It's not amazing, it's good. Since they buffed the Rheinmetall Panzerwagen, it has some really good damage per minute, and it's actually very competitive in Onslaught. So it's a good pickup if you want to try to diversify your play in Onslaught. However, the Rheinmetall is just a little too big to be that kind of like hyper-competitive scout compared to the T100 LT and the Manticore. But for somebody who wants to still try and focus on damage, and also to have the opportunity to go towards the Borkenkäfer, I think it's a solid pick. Next up, let's look at the USSR. Should you go for the arties? Yes, the Object 261, in my opinion, is the best tier 10 artillery in the game. It has a very low shell trajectory. The shells don't fly high, which means that you need to be shooting at people who are not in cover. But if you get good, the Object 261 is actually the best artillery in the game at tier 10. Should you go for the Object 268 version 4? Look, Wargaming keep nerfing this tank. They nerf it, and they just can't kill it. Why? Because it's got idiot-proof armor. Just try and like bundle your way around in front of your opponents and hope they suck. Its weak point is a lot weaker now, but it's still not a tragedy because it's quite hard to hit. If, again, you keep just driving around like a lunatic and ramming everyone and shooting them, it's a strong line for everyone, the Object 268 version 4, and I still recommend it. The Object 268, this thing got a lot of buffs, and it has fabulous heat pen of 395, really good HE rounds as well, AP rounds, beautiful on this tank. It's just a good all-purpose tank. The only problem with it is it's kind of just trying to be good at everything now. It's kind of a bit of a brawler, bit of a sniper, bit of an accurate everything. It just does everything, but it doesn't do anything amazingly like all of the other tank destroyers. So it's a great all-rounder, but still probably not the pick that I would personally suggest. Next up, the 277. Honestly, I wouldn't pick the 277 when you could pick the IS-7 now, purely because the KR-1's looking like it could be an absolute powerhouse. So, look, don't get me wrong, the 277 is still valid. It's a good tank. It's good also in competitive, highly sought after for maneuvers, for example. But I'll talk about it like this. If you're a terrible player, you'll do better in the IS-7. If you're like a bad player up until you're kind of like just on the skirt of being like a good or a great player, you'll do better in the 277, okay? But then when you're kind of like 200 IQ and you're a great player to an incredible player, you'll actually do better in the IS-7 again. It sounds a bit weird, right? It's because the IS-7 is kind of like idiot-proof, where you can just go face-hug your opponents and ram them. And then players start to know how to play, and they'll probably do better with the gun that you have on the 277. And then players really know how to play, and they realize that going back to basics and actually ramming and just face-hugging people, you'll do better in an IS-7. So personally for me, I'd recommend that you pick the IS-7 instead of the 277. But at the end of the day, you decide which one will work for you. Next up, the Object 705. This thing is a fabulous side-scraping behemoth. The only problem with the 705 is its lower plate isn't great. It's not bad, it's not great, and getting shot in the side in this tank, especially the side of the turret, is very frustrating. It can feel like a slow lumbering beast, and it's a bit hit or miss. If you get on a map where side-scraping is useful, and the game goes slow enough for you to be able to use that horrible gun, yeah, big thumbs up for the vehicle. But when you're on those kind of like big open maps that you're sniping or you're needing your gun depression, boy, the tank feels like it sucks. The IS-4 is a dark horse for a pick. This line is actually incredibly easy to play, but also, if you're a great player, you'll be able to do some incredible things with the armor. The gun is also very underrated on the IS-4 with its 340 heat pen, unlike the 705A and the IS-7, and I really like the IS-4. I think this would actually be one of the best picks for people who are brand new to World of Tanks. It will teach you a lot about the mechanics and how to play, and yeah, the IS-4, it's underrated. It's not the tank that I would pick, but I still give it a big thumbs up, and it's a very valid choice, especially for brand new players. The ST2, this is a double barrel tank, and anytime you add like a gimmicky mechanic, it makes it more complicated to be able to figure out. Still, the ST2, I think it's a great pick for players who are advanced at World of Tanks. Incredibly underrated for advanced players who know when to use the double. But if you're not going to use the double, don't pick this tank, just get the IS-4 instead. Next up, the 430U leading towards the new 432U. This is the best tier 10 medium tank in the game for everyone inside the random queue when they know how to play. You will be more influential playing a 430U than you will be in any other tier 10 medium tank, I believe, if you are any player across the board. The armor, the gun, the alpha, it's not finesse. There's no finesse in this tank, right? A lot of players will be thinking, oh, but I can go and play like a Leopard with an incredible gun, or the CS63 with its speed. Sure, but when you think about all of the different maps and the consistency across them, honestly, there's no bad map for a 430U if you set the vehicle up correctly, and I would recommend it as the first tier 10 medium that pretty much everybody gets inside World of Tanks. And now it's got a tier 11 to go on from it. That's a spicy pick. Next up, the 140. This vehicle is a bit of an enigma. Well, it should be really good, but it hasn't been very good. But now it will be, because Wargaming are buffing its alpha up to 340 and also giving it, I think, a rate of fire buff as well at the same time, or maybe just an alpha buff without giving it a rate of fire buff. This thing is nasty. It really is. 7 degrees of gun depression, good armor, and now with a terrifying gun, you really can't go wrong with an Object 140. Would I pick this over a 430U? Probably not if you want to get the tier 11, but still, it's a solid pick, very solid pick. Next up, K91. This is a very funky tank. If you're an incredibly good player, you will be able to do better in this than you will do in the 140. However, the 140 with the buffs, I'm talking about before the patch, after the patch, it could be up and down. The K91 can get incredible camo, nearly as good as any light tank inside the game. So for those of you who want to use the exhaust vision system build that I use to great effect on pretty much all of my medium tanks, the K91 is a very underrated, very powerful sniper with a now fully flexible, traversable turret. Next up, the T100LT. I think this is the best tier 10 light tank for everyone to start with. So if you're some kind of crazy new player and you've seen me play a few light tanks here and again, and then you've thought, that looks like the class for me, I'm going to go for it. The T100LT, in my opinion, is the best first pick. It combines all of the tank's kind of characteristics, and I would not be surprised if this will be the first tier 11 light tank that Wargaming add in after the Rheinmetall, which is the first one. So T100LT, very underrated, an incredible first pick for everyone. Next up, America. Should you get the T92 self-propelled gun? This is big splash, big alpha, big hit. If you want to have the final word with one shell, then maybe this will be the vehicle for you. But I still feel that the artillery class is like a Bard class inside World of Tanks. And unless you absolutely, utterly want to play arty, I wouldn't recommend this one. Next up, T123. This vehicle, it just doesn't give a monkeys. It's got such good frontal armor, and it's probably low-key one of my least favorite tanks to play against, because I just feel like I have to take pain. More often than not, people are going to load the gold and have 375 millimeters of APCR pen and just absolutely crush my will and my desire to play World of Tanks. So if you want to do that, make salty unicorns like me even more salty, then pick a T110E3. It's a strong vehicle. T110E4, this was one of my first tier 10 tank destroyers in World of Tanks, and I loved it. Then Wargaming nerfed the living daylight out of it, and then they buffed it again recently. Look, it's not a bad pick. It's basically like a heavy tank where if you load gold or you use the HE well, it can be better. But for most people, you're going to do way worse in this tank than you would do if you just played something like an E100 or a 60 TP. Next up, T110E5, which is leading to the T803. A great tank, aggressive, all-purpose, a great pick for everyone from beginner to advanced player. T110E5 is a solid vehicle, and I think this would get a firm pick from me, considering it's going to lead towards the T803. M5Y, this one is a bit more funky than the T110E5. The turret is wonderful when it uses its gun depression, which is, I think, like 12 degrees or something now. Crazy amounts of gun depression on this tank. And the gun, you've got a choice of 2 competitive guns on the vehicle. The problem with this vehicle is it requires more confidence with the gun, because if you are stopping and you're aiming for too long, the side of the turret is weak and the weak point on top is exposed. So the M5Y, I'd recommend it for an advanced player, and I think for an advanced player, they will actually probably do better for the M5Y if you have really good map knowledge, but 90% of players will do better in the T110E5. Next up, T57 Heavy. This vehicle, it's a dangerous tank. It's a dangerous tank. Able to deliver 1,600 damage in 6 seconds and then reload quickly to be able to do it again. The problem with the T57 Heavy is that this tank definitely, to make damage, has to take damage. Now, if that's your kind of play style, fair play. For me, it ends up being more frustrating than enjoyable, personally, because of the fact that the cheeks on the vehicle are such a vulnerability. And quite often you have to use your team like absolute meat shields to be able to be successful in the tank. So this isn't the vehicle for somebody who wants to be a push player, but for somebody who wants to see that big fat German heavy tank be an extension of their own hit points. Next up, M48A5 pattern, leading on to the Hacker. It's a solid medium tank. It's definitely below average, I'd say, with performance right now, but it's an all-rounder. If you can't go wrong with it. You play on a city map and you've got some armor and you've got an aggressive gun. You play on a map that requires gun depression, you've got some gun depression and a good turret. You play on a scouting map, at least you've got 420 meters base view range, so get yourself a vision system and then maybe just sit on a ridge line and try to be really annoying. It's a good vehicle. It's not a great vehicle. And stay tuned, as I will be getting you eventually a full tank review on the Hacker. Next up, the Sheridan. This vehicle has had its 152mm massively changed in this patch, but I still don't think it's a good tank. The Sheridan is a vehicle that trades its light tanking capability, or shall I say its scouting capability, to kind of be a bit more than like a light tank, medium tank hybrid. However, I don't think that's a good thing in World of Tanks. I think you actually want to be a scout. I don't think you actually want to be a damage-dealing light tank. But you know what? If you want to be a damage-dealing light tank, then you can't really do much better than the Sheridan. And also, it's funny to have big alpha. Now on to the Japanese vehicles. Ho-Ri 3, I wouldn't recommend it. It's still a good tank, but it's very frustrating to play now with the fact that the gun doesn't have that finesse. I'd say wait to see if there's going to be a tier 11 Japanese tank destroyer that might actually return the Ho-Ri 3 to what it was previously. Type 71, very decent vehicle, but you need to be a good player to make use of its hydropneumatic suspension and the excellent gun depression capabilities that the vehicle brings. It's a very good tank now with the buffs, very underrated. It's just, I think it was so bad that a lot of people just never really want to get their teeth stuck in with the Type 71. Type 5 Heavy. This vehicle has been substantially buffed. It now, as you can see, has idiot-proof armor, 310 at the front. You literally can't get penned now by tier 8 tanks, and most tier 9s, unless they fire gold, aren't going to pen you. And tier 10s and tier 11s, they're going to still struggle if you use the vehicle right. I honestly think that this vehicle is going to be one of the most scary ones of the patch, and it's probably one of the biggest buffs in World of Tanks history, the Type 5 Heavy. absolute monster, boys and girls. Monster tank now, I feel. A good pick for everyone. Everyone, in my opinion, now. STB1, solid tank, great medium, great rate of fire, great gun depression. I just feel like it needs a bit more map knowledge than some of the other mediums in the game. But if you're an advanced player, STB1 is still a banger. Now on to China. So, WZ 113 GFT. This is an incredible TD. It's basically a better Object 268 in my opinion, but it does require you to be an aggressive player. If you're going to sit back and snipe, pick the Object 268. If you want to play a more offensive playstyle where you get stuck in and try to support the heavy tanks, this will do so much better than the Object 268 will, especially in a nice matchup. BZ75, this is my damage record. All-time damage record is in a BZ75. I think it's a very, very strong tank, especially for free-to-play players. That's not just because I've done the most damage in my free-to-play. It's because this tank's statistics aren't held up in a premium consumable. Now, don't get me wrong, the premium consumable will still do better on this vehicle. It will improve its aim time, accuracy, view range, blah, 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 blah. Everything, pretty much. But this it's kind of like this idiot-proof vehicle that just rockets into position and then just keeps chipping away at its opponents with a big gun that can overmatch very well with the standard ammunition with it because it's 152. And now it's leading towards a BZ79. I really think that this vehicle is very underrated, and I think that it will be a solid pick for people who want to have that flexible fuel-based boosters that you can get on the tier 11. But don't get me wrong, 90% of people will probably have more fun and do better in an IS-7. 5A, it's a good tank for me. It's got a really good gun, and if you're willing to fire heat and be aggressive against your opponents, you can really overpower them. And people think like, oh, 5A, this is an easy farm. No, it isn't. Not if it's firing 340 heat, and it uses its great DPM and 7 degrees of gun depression. But I still wouldn't recommend this pick over the BZ75 for like 90% of players. Next up, 121. It's not a bad tank. Alpha, penetration, armor, it's like an all-rounder, but I would thoroughly recommend getting the Object 140 instead. I think the 121 will do well for somebody who wants to make use of the alpha and the heat for advanced players, but for, again, 90% of players, I wouldn't recommend the 121. WZ 132 has been buffed significantly. I believe they've made this gun so much better than it was previously, and it might actually start to leapfrog the other light tanks with regards to its damage capability. But again, the problem with this vehicle is that it sacrifices scouting capability and possibly alpha or an auto-loading capability like you would have with the Sheridan the 13105 to gain armor, and the armor still just isn't really good enough to use in the majority of situations. Now, time for the Brits. Conqueror gun carriage. This is the biggest splash kind of damage. Big splash, big gun arc. So you can troll everyone. The problem with this tank is that it has a very slow travel time. So, and I'm not talking about I'm talking about how fast the shell travels. And so you have to be shooting at stationary targets or have very good skills at predicting where players are going to be to make the Conqueror gun carriage work. But I recommend you get the ultimate troll in World of Tanks, the FE405. You know what? Why not? Absolute beast of a tank. Biggest alpha inside the game, but very expensive to play well. You can play it with AP shells, sure, and the cheap HE, but I'd still personally recommend going for the big old 1750 Hesh. It's a very bad tank, but it's very good for making you feel like you just won the lottery with its huge RNG slot machine mechanics. Now the Badger, this and the Tortoise. So the Tortoise has been nerfed, the Badger is in a good position, and I don't know really about the Breaker yet. We still got to try and figure out what its top speed is going to be when it's using its ability. The Badger is an absolute brute. It's a very, very competitive tank, incredibly underrated in my opinion. You basically just hold down your W key, get on a ridgeline, and farm whatever's in front of it. If you can fight one-on-one, you'll win. You've got the DPM and the armor, and you've got good hit points. But if you're fighting multiple opponents, the Badger starts to feel very stinky. It needs to be... To play the Badger well, you have to have a good knowledge of your opponent's weapon capabilities to know how to link your DPM and your alpha damage in between their shots. So I think this is a great pick, especially for new players. A strong tank destroyer line with some really good ones like the Tortoise, although we'll have to see what it's like in its nerfed form, that everybody will enjoy. Just maybe some people will find the Breaker a little bit boring. Next up, Super Conqueror. I wouldn't recommend this line anymore. It's not bad. It's not bad, but I think that the can opener is just better in so many ways. And also, considering that the can opener leads to the new contriver, tier 11, yeah, I would never recommend picking the Super Conqueror. Pick the can opener instead. But here's what I will say, is that the can opener will be much better for good and above players, but for terrible players and average players, you'll probably do better in the Super Conqueror because you'll get confused by the way that the double mechanic works on the can opener. I recommend the can opener line. I think it's a fabulous line. I think you still want to be a good, above average, or a good player to actually make this thing work compared to other vehicles. But if you are, yeah, it's got to be one of the best heavies in the game. And considering it leads on towards a tier 11, go for it. Have some fun. I also think that the can opener will be nerfed maybe a little bit eventually, but we'll have to see what happens in 2.0. Now, the British mediums, including some of my favorite tanks, the Cromwell and the Comet. This is a really good line to pick if you're brand new to World of Tanks and you just want to mess around at the mid-tiers. I think you'll learn a lot playing these vehicles. Good all-rounders with gun depression to be able to make things work. The Centurion Action 10, it's a good vehicle, but it does require you to be using ridge lines. If you aren't using your gun depression, the turret armor sucks, but it's a great all-purpose medium. Not the best camo, though. The Centurion Action 10, you really should make use of its angled side armor. You over-angle its armor and you can bait people in shooting its tracks. Go for it. Now, the concept. This vehicle has been substantially buffed this patch. I still wouldn't recommend it. The problem with this line is that it was the second wheeled vehicle line in the game, and Wargaming made sure that they were suitably hobbled so that they weren't good tanks. They didn't want people to play these wheeled vehicles incredibly well. They wanted them to be underpowered because the French wheeled light tanks were so controversial. I have to see what the concept's like now, but I still wouldn't recommend this line for anyone. The Manticore, this is the best scout in the game. Bar none, it can get incredible camo, and if you want to just be the final word with regards to scouting in World of Tanks, look no further than the Manticore. What I will say is that for below average and average players, you'll probably do better in a T100 LT, however, because you'll have the armor and a little bit of a better gun to get you out of some scenarios. Vive la France! It's time to look at the French. The Batchat 15558, is this a good self-propelled gun? Yes, I'd say it's the second most competitive after the Object 261, but this one requires extensive knowledge of its stunning capabilities and hindsight with its shells to know who to focus, and you're basically more of a support self-propelled gun rather than a self-propelled gun that tries to do damage. So if you play well and you make that perfect stun at the perfect time, and keep your opponent stunned with its 3 shells, you'll do very well in this vehicle. Foch B, this is, I think it's a broken tank. I think the Foch B is not played by that many people, and thank goodness, because it's an incredibly toxic tank to have to play against. 2,400 damage in 10 seconds with armor, and now mobility, everything. Foch B, absolute bonkers tank, and it's also very good in maneuvers. So, yeah, great pick from me. I guess it's just some people might find its playstyle a little bit boring, and they might want to get the 50B instead to have a little bit of flexibility and be able to get around and use some gun depression. Also, the 50B can now go for the imbattable. I'd say the 50B is probably the worst tier 10 heavy inside the tech tree for being competitive, but very, very, very good at dealing damage. It's a bit like a Leopard in that way. Horrible because you have no turret armor and you let the team down and you need to use them like meat shields. But man, so much damage that you can deal, especially in a loss. And the imbattable, with its ability now to possibly deliver 5 rounds, that could be terrifying. AMX M454, this is still a very good heavy. If you use the 120mm, you barely have to fire gold with this tank. It's an all-round solid pick for everyone. Even though it's been nerfed massively compared to what it was, thank goodness, because it was broken as all hell, you can't go wrong with a 54, no matter what player you are inside World of Tanks. It's a very, very solid vehicle. Now, the Batchat. This is just a fun tank. It's an incredible assassin, and I think the ASXX40T will also be wonderful considering it can have that emergency shell in the Batchat. No, sorry, not the emergency shell. That's not, it's the imbattable that gets the emergency shell. This one gets the cassette reload, where it's basically all the advantages of being an auto reloader, but none of the disadvantages. I think it's a very fun tank to play, and I'd recommend that everybody gets a Batchat inside World of Tanks. But let me clarify, if you're a below average player or you're an average player, you'll do so much worse in this tank than you would do with most of the tanks inside the game. Now the 13105. I love this tank. You don't see that many of them, but it's a very fun playstyle. 305mm rounds with more gun depression than the Bat Chat. But here's what I will say. Up until 2.0, I would have recommended most people get the 13105 instead of the Bat Chat. I find it more fun. However, now that the ASXX40T is in the game and that has so much gun depression, it kind of one-ups the playstyle of the 13105. I wouldn't recommend the 13105, but it's still a very good damage-dealing light, and it's a fun tank to play as well. It's one for the connoisseur of World of Tanks rather than for the casual. Now the EBR-105. If you want to go really fast in World of Tanks, there's no better vehicle than the EBR-105. If you want to just drive around and whiz around and have fun and annoy a few people, go for it. The problem with the EBR-105 is that it's an advanced playstyle which requires advanced knowledge of mechanics inside World of Tanks. So it has some horrendous players playing it who just go wee 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 wee, and then they do 400 spotting and die and end up with a very expensive repair bill that probably lose lots and lots and lots of credits. But you know what? If you have fun playing like that, fair play to you. Still try your best. Try to improve as a player. Don't just drive around and do nothing for a long period in your World of Tanks career. But it's a fun one. Czech Tanks 1-2 or Mike Check 1-3 or 1-2-3. I forgot how to count. I've been talking for so long. Okay, VZ55. This vehicle is a beast, an absolute beast. And I actually have to triple check. Did Wargaming increase the alpha? They did. They increased the alpha of the... no, they didn't. They didn't. Oh, no, they didn't. Guys, they didn't increase the alpha damage of the autoloader. I thought they were going to. Okay, yeah, I don't... it's so sad to see that the single shotgun on this vehicle is so good. Can you imagine that Wargaming are now basically telling people that you should go for the single shotgun on this tank and you shouldn't go for the autoloader? I think that's really poor tank design. The whole point of this vehicle, in my humble opinion, is that you should use the autoloader. But now Wargaming have buffed the single shotgun. Yeah, I'm actually a little bit annoyed about that, I'm not going to lie. I wouldn't recommend going for the VZ55 because I'm salty. Imagine that Wargaming are telling you to use a single shotgun on a vehicle which is meant to have autoloading mechanics. Wargaming, you should have done something about the autoloader on that vehicle and not the single shotgun, in my humble opinion. I'd say wait on this tech tree, guys. See what Wargaming have planned for the Tier 11. Because with that, you might as well just go and pick an IS-7 instead, or go and pick a WZ-111-5A. Don't get me wrong, the VZ-55 is going to be in a better position now that they've buffed the single shotgun. But why would you want to pick a single shot tank that has an autoloader that can't use a gun rammer? You do better with the other single shots in World of Tanks. Now the TVP. Love this vehicle. It's a flexible autoloader, able to just deliver those shells in a really funky fashion. The problem is it's quite big and it's got no armor, so people will struggle significantly with the TVP. I'd say it's for the above-average player of World of Tanks, but boy, for the fun that it can bring to an above-average player, gets a thumbs up from me. One of the worst things about this vehicle, however, is the low penetration on its rounds, and that will mean that you quite often are bouncing your regular rounds or bouncing your gold rounds and losing a lot of credits. Now the Tessac. I love the Tessac. It's actually such a fun tank. The autocannons, which is only on this vehicle so far, I bet you we're going to have them on other vehicles inside the game. It's really fun. It really is. And now that Wargaming has buffed it a little bit with its performance, you might be in a good position. Nah, that's a bit of a bold claim. It's still going to be an awful light tank. It's probably the worst tier 10 light tank for being competitive, but it might be the best tier 10 light tank for being fun inside the game. Polish tanks. Błyczkawice. This is a brute of a vehicle. It's very meta. Funnily enough, it is very meta. The current meta is get stuck in and influence the game before the game is lost. And the Błyczkawice, it's a terrible sniper. It'll do so much worse than like a Grilla or a 268 on Malinovka or Prokhorovka. Oh, well, maybe not on Malinovka, because on Malinovka, you just go on the hill and you just farm all the heavies and you usually win the vast majority of your games if you do that. This is not for the player who is cautious. This is for the bold. It is for the bold. You get stuck in, you destroy whatever heavy tank you can and try and farm as many before the job is done. Rip and tear, boys and girls. Buitskavitsa, it's a really good vehicle, but it not for the new players, for the advanced players. 60 TP. Wargaming nerfed this, but it's still a banger. 750 alpha, great armor, 8 degrees of gun depression. My first tank that I got 10,000 damage in, it's a banger. 60 TP is still a great vehicle. And now with the new armor flashlight, I think you'll be able to do some really funky stuff with the 152mm AP shells and overmatching. Beautiful tank. Firmly recommend it. CS63. This is the pick for the advanced player. If you are, say, like a 52% win rate player plus and you've never played the CS63, you owe it to yourself. This is the pick that I would recommend. Now, it's advanced. It's advanced. You're going to have to know about all of the aggressive positions to push into, and you're going to have faith in the vehicle's hit or miss armor. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. If you're using your 8 degrees, you got to risk it for the biscuit. A lot of people don't realize how good the armor is on the CS63. They think it's a glass cannon, they don't use it. I still think it's probably the best medium tank for the advanced player in World of Tanks, and the Jackal looks like an absolute beast at tier 11. Italian tanks, Minotauro. This is the best tier 10 tank destroyer in the game, bar none. You will be able to achieve your best win ratio, irrelevant if you're a very casual player or an incredible player in the Minotauro. The problem is the vehicle's just a little bit boring, and it feels as if it's a tank destroyer pretending to be a heavy tank. And who would have thought that the best tank destroyer in the game is the one that actually has heavy tank mechanics? Talking about heavy tanks, Rinoceronte. Is this a vehicle I would recommend? For an advanced player, you will do some good stuff, but I feel like that auto-reloader Pitfall will hold so many players back. I wouldn't recommend it for casual players. I wouldn't even recommend it for the average players. But the Rinoceronte, still a solid pick inside World of Tanks. Progetto 65, finally receiving a little bit of buffs. Wargaming, this is probably Wargaming's most hated tank. They nerfed it, and they nerfed it. Even though it was balanced, they nerfed it. They nerfed it because it was too popular. I don't know why they nerf tanks if they're too popular. I think they should nerf tanks that are having negative impact inside the game. Now that the vehicle's buffed, it's going to be better than it was before. I still just can't really recommend it for most players. But if you want to have a medium tank that absolutely is flexible and allows you to dictate, well, hopefully if you can dictate the combat, is very, very strong. Yeah, Progetto 65, still solid. Now on to the Swedes. The STRV 103B, the ultimate sniper, now goes up a notch when it becomes the STRV 10712. I still need to have a vibe with the pillbox mode on that tank, but this is a very good line for the STRV for players who either want to be pure snipers, but if you want to play the vehicle well, you have to know when to get stuck in. The STRV 103B for me is not delivering its optimal performance until it has one build with a durability and a turbo and a gun rammer where you go and get on a ridge line and pretend like you're a medium tank without a turret. And what you can do to players when you play like that is staggering. I recommend this line. I think it's good. What is Wargaming doing? Are they kicking me out? Okay, I've got to get this video in quickly. Apparently, I'm getting kicked out. STRV, Kranvang, and Udes. Okay, thank goodness. It's just the store that was struggling. So STRV, I do recommend it. I recommend it a lot. Solid vehicle. Next up, let's talk about the Kranvang. This vehicle's receiving micro buffs this patch. It's a very strong tank still, in my opinion. If you're a good player who has good knowledge of the maps and good knowledge of positions, the Kranvang is an absolute beast. The problem with the Kranvang is it has a lot of issues with its gun handling and its durability when it's not using its gun depression on a ridgeline. I really wouldn't recommend this line, but I still do feel that the Kranvang is a very strong vehicle to play if you have good knowledge of positions and you can use that gun depression. And this was a speed run. Did I even take a breath in like the last 40 minutes or something like that? Udes 1516. This is a great medium tank. It's incredibly sneaky. It can get camo rating that makes light tanks start to visibly sweat, while also still having 440 alpha damage and like 13 degrees of gun depression or something, and incredible turret armor. The problem with this vehicle is its penetration is a little lackluster, and its shell velocity is mediocre, and it's so close to being completely broken, but it never really takes that step across the threshold. I think the UDES 15-16 is for advanced players, however. Players who don't know the maps, players who don't know how to play with a vision system exhaust build, I think will struggle in the UDES 15-16. But for advanced players, incredible line. Anyway, ladies and gents, boys and girls, you asked for it, so you got it. There you go. That is my overview of tech trees inside World of Tanks. That will hopefully let you know which lines I would recommend selecting your one, if not your two, first tech trees. I really hope this video was useful for you. If it was, give it a thumbs up. If you hated it, give it a thumbs down. And let me know in the comments which tech tree you are going to pick and why. And if you agree or disagree with any of my statements, remember they're just subjective opinions. Just trying to provide some kind of a little bit of a guide for any of you expert or you novice players out there. And if you're watching this video as it goes live on Monday, I'm going live all day on twitch.tv/QuickyBaby, where I'm feverishly trying to grind to finish off my grind inside World of Tanks. And also, I'm happy to announce that today I will have mystery drops starting from 5 o'clock UTC, where you're going to have the opportunity to have like about a 1 in 100 or 1 in 1,000 chance of getting a Toro completely for free. Or you'll get the other stuff that's available. So, really looking forward to seeing you all live right now on twitch.tv/QuickyBaby. And as always, thank you so much for watching. You've been epic, and hopefully I'll see you soon.